Welcome to The Prize Inside. The Prize Inside. A chiropractor's journey in everyday holistic health and vitality. Here, your host, Dr. Jeremy Myers, delves into the remarkable journeys of everyday people who have embraced the path to health and healing. Through his practice, Dr. Jeremy encounters inspiring stories of profound transformation and the power of true healing within each of us. Stay tuned as we discuss various holistic topics and unlock the healing potential that lies within us all.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Prize Inside, the 1% Tribe Edition. Tonight is a continuation of last week, where we were talking about gut microbiome health. It's called Cultivating a Thriving Ecosystem. So, Julie, it's good to see you. I'm glad you're enjoying this. This should be a pretty good one, enlightening wise, because tonight is really about understanding what's happening there. Because a lot of times right now, because let's be straight up, the lack of knowledge that's out there, sometimes people feed on that, and that's what my job is in these few different ones. I've studied microbiome way before it was popular. Read this book years ago called The GAPS Diet. It was fantastic. It answered a lot of questions for your innate intelligence to like really get in there. So what we wanted to do last week, we did part one, which we'll go over a little bit of part one. And then we go into part two, which is the processes of digestion, which sounds like not a lot of stuff, but it is. So with that, let's talk a couple little articles. Remember, first, I want to make sure that you all make sure you're subscribing to the Rumble channel that's out there. That's where I get to see Julie's fun comments. So that's one reason I like it, is because we can actually like get one night, maybe this once a month or something. I want to get on there and just take questions or have some kind of cool aspect on that. That's why I'm building my Rumble channel that way. If you like listening, though, we have it in podcast version. So you can listen to this on iTunes, Spotify, whatever you like. And here is the podcast. So I put those in the comments. But if you would subscribe and like what we do, hopefully it'll keep inspiring you to keep building that, holistic is so great. Like today was fantastic. I probably sound a little tired because we were outside all day because it was like perfect. So did a lot of stuff. We did between yard stuff, working out pretty early. And then I've been working on this stuff where we're burning barrels. My brother, I probably showed you. It's called Whiskey Rhino. If you ever want to check out, if you ever need a barrel that's engraved, like a whiskey barrel for decor for your thing, he has shown me how to do it. So it was really fun. So we were successful today in our first run. So that was pretty awesome. It takes a while to set that stuff up, but so with that said, I'm going to throw a few articles out, and I do a little bit of this article so that Wednesday night, if you're around between 7:30 and 8:30, one of those two, or between 6:30 and 8:30, I try to make, it's called Whole Health Weekly. And so Whole Health Weekly is just the news of the week in health and longevity. And there's a lot. So a lot of times we'll have tons of info. So I want to give you a couple good articles that I saw, and then we'll get started. All right. Actually, I'll just do one. No, there's two. Ooh, this is interesting. Okay. Drinking soda raises diabetes risks even with no weight gain. All right. That's interesting, by Dr. Mercola. Think you're safe because you're slim. Scientists warn even lean soda drinkers face skyrocketing risks for fatty liver, insulin resistance, and type 2 diabetes from daily sugary drinks. Drinking just one sugary beverage a day increases your risk of developing type 2 diabetes by 25%, even when you're not overweight. So remember that. We'll probably go through that again on Whole Health Weekly, a deeper dive. And I saw this one, dragon fruit. If you ever had it, Lexi had it in a smoothie. It was delicious. I was like, whoa, that's really good. Dragon fruit boosts gut and heart health. That's pretty cool. It says in this article, this bright, exotic, and loaded with benefits dragon fruit isn't just eye candy. It's a nutrient-packed powerhouse that supports your gut, skin, and metabolism and more. So remember that, dragon fruit. That's an interesting one for all of us Michigan people. Should be a good one to check out as you go. All right. So with that said, after those two, and remember on Whole Health Weekly, that's all we do. We go through different articles that I find that you might find interesting or ones that could, throw you off the mark, right? So it could say you're going to do a certain thing, and then, it has a certain benefit, and maybe it doesn't necessarily. Okay. So tonight will be about part 2 of the gut ecosystem. I apologize. There we go. All right, here we go. One of my favorite topics of all time. So that's why I'm so happy to do these tonight and last week too. So what we're going to go over tonight is why a healthy gut is not just about eating right. It's about understanding the processes of digestion. And that's what we're going to go through tonight. What our innate intelligence needs help in getting back on track, and some herbals that don't just chase the symptoms, but it actually aids our innate intelligence to do what it does. So we're really going to focus in on like herbs that help the systems that we need. So digestion, remember this as we go forward. One of the biggest things about digestive process, it's a process. It always has been a process. It's not, you have a bleed on you cut your skin. There's a process behind that, but it's not as detailed as this is, right? In the sense of what we have to do, what our innate intelligence has to do with this piece of food that is sitting, let's say it's on a store shelf, and then you take that piece of food and you eat it. There are so many processes that we have to do to get it ready for the innate intelligence to be able to use it and our bodies to be able to use it. So remember that as we go. Okay. All right. So I wanted to go back and do a little review of part 1. These are some of the conditions that we're talking about with a gut microbiome that is not correct, that is compromised, let's say. And these are just a few of the different things. And this is why it's so stinking important to understand like how your gut microbiome is. So from GI disorders, you can have, so if your gut bacteria is off, you have GI disorders like IBS, IBD, leaky gut, gastroparesis, colorectal cancer, metabolic disorders like obesity, type 2 diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome's pretty nasty. It's like low-level type 2 diabetes. Mental health and nervous system, anxiety, depression, autism, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. Immune system, atherosclerosis, hypertension. Skin conditions like acne, eczema, and psoriasis. Liver conditions, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is on the rise. Many people are having this issue, and and a lot of times it's an altered gut. Your gut bacteria is messed up pretty well. Liver cirrhosis can actually happen too. And so here's some other ones that are not specific, but chronic fatigue, kidney disease, and sleep disorders. So these are all different conditions that mess with you pretty good if your gut microbiome is off. And so what we want to do is make sure that we are getting on top of this stuff as we go. Okay. So that was a little bit. Okay. So let's recap part 1. So first we started with the elimination of toxins. okay, that we have created most of the problems that come with gut health is the typical toxins that get invaded into that gut space. Remember, there's three things that cause dis-ease or disease. It's thoughts, toxins, trauma, right? In gut health, it's no different. You can have thoughts, you can have toxins, and you can have traumas give you altered gut microbiome, but probably a high percentage, you'd have to say, is from the toxins that we eat, the toxins that we're exposed to. So that is where it comes in massively. Okay. So this first one, though, is not necessarily a toxin, but a kind of environmental situation. Our lack of gut bacteria when we are born, sorry, that's not spelled right. A newborn does not have gut bacteria, so the gut bacteria is getting you're getting moms and dads, right? And if moms and dads gut bacteria is not great, then the baby's not starting out that great, right? So that's kind of how the gut bacteria builds, the microbiome builds over time. You have baby and you have this once you're born, the baby's doesn't have its gut microbiome because it doesn't need it. So when it's born, it starts to get that from what they call vaginal, from the mom and birth. Let's say it didn't have a vaginal birth, right? And then after that, it's like the breast milk and those kind of things, and it trains all the way up to an adult microbiome. I won't go into it. We went into it in the part one pretty good, but imagine if mom or dad don't have a great gut microbiome to pass on to the kids. That leads you to a situation where maybe, you might not have your baby might not have the greatest gut bacteria, or you yourself may not have the greatest gut bacteria just based on environmental factors. Many prescription medications have a major impact, especially antibiotics. So antibiotics are one that means anti-life. And so therefore, if we have to take a lot of them, whatever that may be, a lot of times getting your gut microbiome recovered after that is a huge deal. Now, a lot of people take a lot of prescription medications, which can alter that as well. So we want to make sure we're getting that good gut microbiome restored. It's not that the prescriptions are the enemy. It's that we don't know to restore our gut microbiome. And that's one of the problems. That's what tonight's all about. Hopefully I can get you guys to understand that as well. So ultra processed foods beat up your microbiome pretty bad. So think of seed oils as like your fried chicken or any kind of fried food. They use these seed oils that are destructive, essentially. These seed oils are really hard on your gut microbiome. It tastes good in theory, but it can really mess up that in the gut bacteria. Fake sugars, this is the one that is can't stand it, but fake sugars and fake chemicals in our food put major stressors on our gut microbiome. The biggest thing you have to understand, anything that's a chemical that's fake, it's fake. So it means if it's a chemical and it tastes like sugar, that's great that it tastes like sugar. In a lab, it does. It doesn't tell your gut microbiome that that's food, though. So your gut microbiome is going to think that that is an enemy to your body. It can't use it for anything. And so what occurs is we have these remnant parts. And the science is interesting because they were like, okay, we're going to bring this energy molecule in from that acts like sugar. Okay, cool. It tastes like sugar, all those things. And even you get some energy from it. It's true. You get some energy from the sugar. The problem is it's not in the same, category because it has all this other chemical that they had to put around it to get it to you. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. But that fake stuff, that artificial flavors and sweeteners and all those kind of things, those are big chemicals that your gut microbiome doesn't know what to do with. And what you want your gut microbiome to do is break down break down, the foods that we're eating, right? So we want to make sure we're as efficient as we possibly can. And then the last one is alcoholic type drinks. And, those kind of things are obviously things that can mess up your gut microbiome. They're not great for you. Your liver has a real hard time with alcohol. I was just talking to a patient. One of the hardest things for me to watch is people that drink a lot of alcohol that think they're healthy, because, they it's frustrating because they're like, "Oh, it's fine. I eat well all the time." And then, to see them suffer later because their liver hasn't functioned right in 25, 30 years. And then they wonder why they're having health issues, right? So alcohol it's a little silent but deadly. It puts so much stress on your liver gallbladder situation. That's why you get liver cirrhosis, right? So it's one of those things that if you can stay away from it, that is awesome. So these are kind of some of the things that create a gut microbiome problem. Okay. And we went through this in part 1. So if you want to go on the Rumble channel, YouTube, or whatever, and find it again, we can go through that too. Okay. So what we wanted to do in part 1 is to eat very clean. We wanted to eat digestible meats, fats, and veggies, and use broth. Now, the reason you use broth is like what we went through. We want to treat our our gut health like we're going to plant a garden, right? And so we need to and this garden is not ready. It's like we got to pretend the garden's not ready to be planted. So what would you do? You'd fertilize it, you'd water it, you'd do all these things. One of the things we went through in part 1 is we want to have really nice digestible meats, fats, because a lot of times you're not going to be allergic to a lot of those type of things. So if you stay in those, some really soft veggies, like we'd cook, or we either boil them, steam them, anything that doesn't get the digestive tract going, especially if you're trying to fix the digestive tract. And then broths are something that went away with time. We made them into a powder, which is hilarious. So, when somebody says, "Oh, broth," and then it makes a big deal, you see how the effort of life happens, right? So somebody made it really easy and calls it bone broth, collagen protein shake that you stick in your drink. And they are good, don't get me wrong, but your own broth is so much better. So take a slow cook meat, slow cook a chicken, slow cook a beef, something. Use that broth that you just made, this nice organic stuff, and start making a habit of having a little bit of it. Because broth, they used to do this on purpose because it helped digestion. Let's go back to the old days when they used to do that because they had no choice. And now let's reintroduce that sucker. You can freeze broth. There's a lot you can do with broth, right? Make it really spicy. We'll talk about that as well. You can culinary it all you want, but the broth allows no digest. You don't have to worry about those microbiome being digested, or the microbiome being ready for digestion. What happens with the broth is it gets absorbed. All those vitamins and minerals and collagen and all those kind of things end up getting into your intestine, getting absorbed very, very easily. If it's able to do that, then we start having that recovery and healing of the gut. So that's why these are big. Okay. So that's where we started. And then we did this for a period of time. And then you introduce like really good multivitamin, which a lot of people miss, like something liquid, possibly, just making sure you're getting all your nutrients, right? Vitamins, macronutrients, micronutrients, trace minerals, a lot of these different things. You start adding it now because you're kind of helping that microbiome along. And then once we feel pretty good about everything, we start adding the pre and probiotics in there in the process. Okay. So that was basically the recap of part 1, I believe. Okay. So this is where we're going to talk. Tonight is going to be about we've gotten to this place, right? We've started eating clean. We're doing a lot of these different things. But now we got to figure out so how many different processes of digestion are there, and what is going on with you in particular. Now, a lot of times, if a lot of you don't know, call sometime. We do a gut detox program at the office where we walk you through and coach you through this entire thing. I think I have 3 or 4 patients doing it currently. It's pretty awesome. And the reason we do it, if it was just as simple as just, eating better and then all of a sudden your gut microbiome, sometimes it is actually. So, sometimes your gut, it makes sense. It's like all of a sudden you just do the things I did in part 1, your gut microbiome health is better and you're on your way, right? Sometimes it's a little deeper than that, where I've tried a lot of things, I've tried several different processes and it's just not working. And I'm going to show you why that occurs tonight. And hopefully it'll make a lot of sense to you. So a lot of times it's because there's many processes in the digestive system. When those processes aren't doing what they're supposed to do on the way down or throughout the digestive, it's hard to recover, because we want that innate intelligence, the body, to actually digest a lot of different things. Okay. So hopefully this makes sense to you as you go. I always overthink the room most of the time, thinking I'm some kind of good speaker, and that I had too much crap in there. So just let me know if you have questions, comments, as we do this. Okay. So now, once we've gotten to this level, we find out which processes are in lack of communication with the innate. Okay. So the innate intelligence, remember, that's the innate intelligence within you. The cells of your body need no help. They just need no interference, and they will heal, right? So let's dive into the process of digestion. So the first process of digestion is called ingestion. Ingestion is mouth and salivary glands. So your mouth, with your teeth mechanically breaking down food into smaller pieces through chewing, increasing the surface area for digestion. See that? So if we're sucking down our food, there's a reason my grandma made me I think it was if somebody remembers, I think my grandma would make me chew 13 times before I ate. And it was very interesting, but because usually I would just suck that stuff down. I don't know. That's how it goes. So when you chew, you're increasing the surface area of the breakdown of the food for digestion. The tongue manipulates the food, mixing it with saliva. It also helps you with the taste portion as we go, because it has all the different, taste nerves that are on there. Salivary glands. These are things that we don't think about, by the way. Salivary glands produce saliva containing salivary amylase, which begins breaking down starches into simpler sugars like maltose. Saliva also lubricates food easier when swallowing. So it literally has a breakdown. The saliva of your mouth literally is starting the breakdown process so that you can use these starches as energy. That's pretty awesome. Okay. So swallowing is the next process of digestion. Swallowing is the mouth and tongue. The tongue shapes the chewed food into what they call a bolus and pushes it towards the pharynx, initiating the swallowing reflex. So as you're going, it causes the swallowing reflex. The pharynx and the esophagus are the next piece. The pharynx directs the bolus from the mouth to the esophagus, preventing entry into the airway. The esophagus, a muscular tube, uses rhythmic contractions, peristalsis, to transport the bolus to the stomach. That's pretty important to know. So a muscular tube is pushing things down. Remember that as we go forward. Lower esophageal sphincter, which is some people know if they've had acid reflux or, those kind of things. At lower esophageal sphincter, this is a muscular ring that relaxes to allow the bolus to enter the stomach. So remember, the bolus is the food to enter the stomach and then contracts to prevent the acid from coming back up through the esophagus. Okay, so that would be esophageal reflux as people know it. Okay, so now let's go on to the next process. Now this bolus is down to the next piece. It's down into the stomach. So the stomach's muscular walls churn the food. It's like a churning butter, mixing it with gastric juices containing pepsin for protein digestion and hydrochloric acid, which activates pepsin and kills pathogens. Remember that. This process turns food into a semi-liquid chyme. That's what they call the bolus after. Now it's really mushy. I won't gross you guys out, but it's just really, really, really mushy. Partially digested proteins into peptides. The stomach also regulates the release of chyme into the small intestine. So the stomach is dictating when it goes into the next phase. The small intestine digestion is the next part. The small one goes before the large. Small intestine, the duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. The duodenum receives the chyme, which is think of this as like a bolus. Oh, I don't want to gross you guys out. Think of this as like applesauce. Okay, so at this time, the chyme is the applesauce. Before, it was a piece of apple, and now it's applesauce. Okay, that'll make it a little easier. Okay, the duodenum receives the chyme and mixes it with digestive enzymes and bile. Enzymes start breaking down carbohydrates into simple sugars, proteins into amino acids, and fats into fatty acids and glycerol. The jejunum, which is the next one down from the duodenum, and the ileum absorb these nutrients through their villi and microvilli into the bloodstream and lymphatic system. See where it's getting pretty intensely important to have all these processes in place? The pancreas in this area secretes pancreatic juice into the duodenum, and this is containing amylase, lipase, and proteases for proteins, because the pancreas is not only about insulin, guys. Neutralizing stomach acid with bicarbonate to optimize enzyme activity. And we're going to go through all this. I just want to get you through the whole process. Liver and gallbladder. The liver produces bile, which is stored and concentrated in the gallbladder. Bile is released into the duodenum. So look at all that stuff that happens right in the beginning of the small intestine to emulsify the fats, which is to make sure the fats are real broke down, breaking them into smaller droplets for easier digestion and absorption. Okay, the large intestine. Okay, so now we've passed through the small intestine, the duodenum, jejunum, and the ileum, and now we're into the large intestine, which is the colon. This absorbs water and electrolytes from undigested materials, forming solid feces. Gut bacteria ferment the remaining carbohydrates and fibers, producing gases and beneficial short-chain fatty acids, which support colon health. The appendix. The appendix is a small pouch of the cecum, off the cecum, which is a part of the colon. It may store beneficial bacteria to repopulate the gut, but has a minor role in digestion. Okay, that's cool. Now we got off to the elimination piece. Okay, so elimination. The elimination is the rectum. It stores the feces until sufficient volumes triggers the urge to defecate. Stretch receptors signal the brain to prepare for elimination. Like one of our favorite babysitters, Nicole. If you're out there, you still make me laugh every time you said when one of my kids looked at me and goes, "Hey, Dad, I'm prairie dogging." I didn't know what that was, and I laughed for 3 weeks after I found out what prairie dogging was. All right, the anus or anal sphincter. The internal and external anal sphincters control the release of feces. The internal sphincter relaxes involuntarily, while the external sphincter is under voluntary control, allowing for defecation. Okay, enough anatomy. Now we're going to go through. So hopefully, if you listened and kind of followed that piece of food through your body, you can see where the digestive process and the gut microbiome, it's super important to have all of it right, so that by the time it gets to where the gut microbiome, the whole digestive process, make it as easy as you can. Don't make your body use extra energy it doesn't have to, by eating really, really well and having these different processes. So that's what tonight's going to be about. Where in this process is, is your gut microbiome having issues? Because right now, most of the stuff that we do is just masking this thing. You got IBS, here's a drug to cover IBS. You got esophageal reflux, you got acid reflux, here's a drug. That's all we do. It's insane. We have to get out of this. The protein pump inhibitors, we talked about this last week. Protein pump inhibitors were only supposed to be used for like 30 to 60 days. People are on them for 10 years. That's a problem. And we'll talk about like where it is in the process. But if we can get to the good point where we're fixing this stuff, you will be shocked at how good you feel. It's amazing when people go through this gut microbiome stuff with us. Okay. So once we begin to restore our microbiome, which is kind of what we did with the eating clean, we need to begin to look at each of these processes and evaluate each process, then do our job to give the innate intelligence the best chance it has to heal the processes in a way that heals us and eventually all aspect of the gut nervous system. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the different herbs that we're going to use on the way in. Like, you don't have to use all of these. This is why we're doing it this way. A lot of times you're going to not know necessarily if somebody hurts really bad. Let's say you have the Crohn's or the IBS or something pretty severe. Sometimes you just won't know where it actually the problem occurs. So a lot of times I'm going to give you some insights in like where to look in there as far as herbal remedies and what you feel like and how it happens. Are you having more elimination problems? Are you having gut? Anytime I eat, my stomach feels crappy. Does my throat feel swollen? Do I have the acid reflux? These are different things to ask, like as you go, and then maybe you can figure out kind of direct once you get your gut microbiome going, what kind of herbs would help you in that process from there. Okay. So the first process is going to be ingestion, which is, remember, it's mouth and salivary glands. This one's really good because it's often forgot about. And it's one that you could really do a good job in initiating, a lot of different things. And this one helps more people than we think. We just don't do it a lot. There's a herbal category called bitters. Okay. So bitters is where you would use the bitters, this category it would be in ingestion. If you have an issue with ingestion, let's say dry mouth, I can think of so many things, like as you go, you may not know, in ingestion, if you have a problem with that, but bitters, remember, if you're having a trouble breaking down what they call starches that break into the smaller sugars, it starts in your mouth with your saliva. So by adding this bitters, what bitters do is initiate the digestive process. So you see it in a lot of Italian. If you go to Italy, you almost start with this little alcoholic drink that you start before you eat your pasta. It's because they know to ingest. So you're eating a lot of starch with your pasta. So if I have a bitter before I have a pasta, what happens? you break down that food much, much better. Okay. The old adages were very, very important back then. And that's why a lot of Italians start with a nice little alcoholic. It's because bitters can be in a little alcohol drink. You can get them at an alcohol store. You don't have to have alcohol. You can have, there's many other bitters out there that you can do. We have a few at the office that we do through an Amish company or an herbal company, but bitters are a category that could be really, really helpful in this very age or in this time. So what bitters do overall in the ingestion is it revs up the digestive process, increasing salivation, right, from the salivary glands, increases stomach acid secretion before food gets there, which is exactly what you want to tell your stomach, hey, something's coming. And then especially people with bad stomach acid, okay, so that's basically what that means, causes gallbladder contraction, so it's telling the gallbladder it's coming as well. And it helps release bile, which enhances the digestion of fats and acts like a natural laxative. So it is fantastic. And it also primes the exocrine pancreas to release its digestive enzymes. So by starting with a bitter before a meal, any meal, you're getting your entire body ready for this meal and getting all those processes revved up so they're not surprised, right? So think about this scenario. This is one of the reasons why we're where we're at. I'm watching a movie that's let's say it's Top Gun. So we're watching Top Gun and it's super action packed and we're sitting there and I'm staring at the movie and where it gets intense. That intensity, should I be eating? So if my brain's telling me I'm in this intense situation where there's airplanes shooting at people and there's like a fight, do you think that's a time to eat? Does it make sense? Right. So we're giving our body mixed messages. And one of my favorite personal times to eat food is at a movie theater, popcorn, whatever, right? But I also feel like crap the immediately after because I ate that food. Because most of the action movies I go to, I should be in what they call fight or flight mode, not in digestion mode, right? By adding a bitter, you're telling your body, hey, I am about to eat food. I want to digest it. And this is I want you to get into that process of digestion. So bitters are really, really fantastic. So remember that as you go. So this is something like, so if you added all that stuff we did in, part 1, part 2 is something to experiment with. Okay. All right. So now let's look at some herbs we use for swallowing. So this is swallowing aspect. We use the mouth and the tongue. Okay. One of the two things that's very important in there is nerves and muscles. You ever heard of Bell's palsy or the tongue having issues in like a stroke or, those kind of things? The biggest problem is like that the muscle, it's one of the most intricate muscles of the human body is the tongue, right? So if the tongue is a muscle, and so what we want to do in this aspect, let's say, it's just something we have trouble swallowing or those pharynx, we want to get maybe some improvement in the muscle tone or the nerve tone of your mouth. Okay, so this could be an important aspect as well. So this is what I think. Then this is just a suggestion, but once you get to it, we'll get to the other ones that you think I would bring up, but this one's pretty unique because I see it a lot. So what I would want to do is take a lot of things that are good for brain or nerve health on top of muscle strength kind of situation, anything that would help that. Okay. The reason I would is because the cranial nerves of your brain take care of your tongue, take care of the sensory nerves of your tongue. Okay. Your taste, right? So why not get your brain some good nutrition as you go? So if we want to improve our mouth in health, let's do some brain nutrition. Okay. So that's where this comes from. And this is just me telling you what I would do. Okay. So just understand that. All right. So I would think quercetin, vitamin D, zinc, ginkgo biloba is a fantastic herb for the brain. Okay. So good thoughts, like that kind of thing. Omega 3s are always awesome. And you see how these are vitamins, right? And you're going to see vitamin D come up a lot. So just remember quercetin. Quercetin allows zinc to get in your cells a little better, and it helps break that blood-brain barrier. Okay. So remember quercetin from some of our other talks. Vitamin D, zinc, ginkgo that we just said, really, really good. Omega 3s through fish oil, which could be in your diet prior already. There's some nuts that have some good fish oil or omegas in there too. A lot of the B vitamins, a ton of B vitamins are really good for nerve health. Vitamin E. And then here's some herbs that you would think about. Curcumin. Remember where that comes from. So curcumin is the stuff that's in turmeric, remember? Okay. So it's the active ingredient of that. So like turmeric, ginger, those kind of ones. L-theanine, that's the one that's pretty popular as we talk now. Ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is good for every system of the human body. It's got a little bit of, it's like a jack of all trades, master of none. That's what kind of ashwagandha is, but it works really well. And I like chiropractic adjustments to make sure all the nervous system in your neck and spine and all those things are working properly so that your mouth and tongue would work right. And that is a great way to start taking care of. We went from what? We went from the ingestion, which is the mouth and salivary glands, to giving you mouth and tongue and straight nerve improvement, right? And then let's go. So we did the swallowing. So those by itself, and then you go, okay, if I'm going to do all these different things, you're going to help your pharynx and your esophagus, okay, because of the muscular strength and the nerve strength there. The lower esophagus sphincter will also be really, really good in those because it's all a muscular tube. So you have to remember that. So eating well, eating good herbs that'll improve your muscle tissue is a very good idea. Okay, so now we're going on to the stomach. So these are some herbs after we've done all of our getting to the probiotic aspect of things. Now we're going to talk about stomach digestion. And let's go through this a little bit first, because this one gets confusion. We think too much acid in the stomach. We always think too much acid in the stomach causes acid reflux, blah, blah, blah. Okay. That's not true almost half the time. A lot of times you have stomach acid problems one time, but you also can be too basic the other time. The biggest problem is you get this imbalance no matter what. And so what we're trying to do is restore that. And the one way a really big way you can do that is start eating clean, get rid of the sugary, fake sugar drinks and all those other things that really can nail you pretty good. And a lot of this acidity will start to wane. Okay. The biggest thing is like understanding that you can be too acidic and too basic. And so some of those things that people tell you to take and you're like, oh man, it drops my pH, but it doesn't affect you very much, then it means you go the other way. And that, if that is true, then come talk to me, because there's a couple ways to go about that. Okay. So this is some stomach. Okay. So the stomachs, we know about the chum, mixing the gastric juices with the pepsin and the hydrochloric acid. And then it breaks down the food into the chyme, right? Remember that. These are the herbs that I would suggest in this if we're having stomach issues, right? So this kind of helps you get back into the regulation through the pH. But also, if you remember when we talked earlier tonight, that the stomach is a big place for our bacteria, our gut bacteria to work. This is where our immune system is living. and it's trying to get rid of a lot of these different bad microbes that are in there. Okay. So what I would suggest is herbs with antimicrobial properties, which is crazy because some of the best ones are major culinary herbs. Okay. Stop. When you cook with herbs, you're giving yourself an antimicrobial shot and it'll end up in your stomach. Turmeric, ginger, those are really, really good. The one that's pretty hot right now because it does a lot in digestive health in general, berberine rich plants. Okay. Berberine rich plants. There's one called Oregon grapefruit and golden seal. But your ultimate goal in the stomach is to create a balanced pH. And it can make a huge difference going forward. And so sometimes I've seen in the herbal world, and it works pretty well. A little tiny bit of apple cider vinegar. You don't have to like drink apple cider vinegar all the time. It can cause some other issues. So like if you do too much apple cider vinegar, you could cause yourself issues going the other way. So just remember that. With that though, if we're not, so what happens with apple cider vinegar? It's kind of like so if you have too low a pH, it'll bring you up to balance. Okay. Which sounds good, but then you have what they call too basic. Sometimes you can have too basic where you have this other process that we won't go into tonight, but you can actually have a too basic of a stomach almost as commonly as you can have a too acidic one. But apple cider vinegar can really kind of help you balance out that pH of that stomach. And when you do, you help the immune system of the body. You start not having the gastric juices and the damage from having a very acidic area. Because think about it, if you got an acid and it's too acidic, what's going to happen to the walls, right? Why do you think acid reflux occurs? It's exactly that. Okay. All right. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this because I love this topic, but it might be a little too much. So just let me know. So go back or get on my Rumble channel and then get back and then you can take some notes if it's too much. But now we're going to go into small intestine ingestion. Remember, it's the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. And this is where we start taking that chyme, right? And we start breaking down and mixes it, making it even more breaking down. But you also start getting absorption. Okay. So this is a spot where, like the ease of the digestive process, when you start having major stomach things, like things don't settle well, I would think would be a process. There's this thing called the herbs called carminatives. Carminatives are ones that help break down the gas piece in the digestive process. So let's say you have a digestive issue, I would think, or you have a lot of excessive gas, those kind of things. Most of the time, it's going to be in your small intestine that you'll want to take a carminative type process. Okay. I forgot to put one in there. Peppermint's a good example of a carminative. So that's something to think about. Anti-inflammatory herbs, this is a good spot for that. So inflammation, we don't want to have an inflamed small intestine, while we're trying to absorb and digest all this stuff. So a lot of times your anti-inflammatory herbs will be turmeric, ginger, what they call tea phenols. When you take tea, you have these little phenols that actually, if it's a nice loose leaf tea, it can help you a ton and you don't even know it. And this is another spot for antispasmodics, which is chamomile. So we want all of because your small intestine is breaking down a ton of stuff, we want your gut and your entire, all these muscly process to be working good. And antispasmodics could be a really good one as well. All right. So let's go through the pancreas. So the pancreas at the same time, we're doing small intestine stuff, right? So then this pancreas starts talking. You could see it not only does insulin, but it does It breaks down proteins. It breaks down fats. It breaks down carbohydrates. Remember, we talked about that. Pancreas is super important. So one of the ones that they say that are really good is called bitter melon. Bitter melon is an herb, and this is really good for the cells of the pancreas. I'm not trying to take the process of digestive enzymes and all those kind of things. I don't want to do that, because if I take the digestive enzymes, I'm just replacing the things that your human body is made to do. I'm trying to give them the best chance to make the best, enzymes out there and break down the food the best. Okay, so then liver and gallbladder. So this one, liver and gallbladder produces the bile, and it's stored and concentrated in the gallbladder. The bile is then released into duodenum. Some people called it duodenum, but whatever. So duodenum, and it actually emulsifies fats. It breaks it down into small droplets. So think about really breaking down, this little chyme thing, right? And this is what they call choleretics and cholagogues. So these are really good, and they improve secretion of bile. So I hate to do this to y'all, but if you get on my Rumble channel, I have a whole hour on choleretics and cholagogues. Okay. Oh, I should have gave you one. Well, that's okay. Oh, I can't think of one offhand. Hang on. All right. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So the ones kind of that we're familiar with, like artichoke, dandelion, dandelion leaf is another good one. Artichoke leaf is another choleretic cholagogue that can be really important. Okay, so large intestine. So the large intestine processing. So we understand this is where you start absorbing the water. You get the electrolytes and any undigested material goes through the large intestine. And this is where it's got to be super important for the next part. This is a good spot that I would say if you're having issues forming, not being regular in your number twos, going to the bathroom, all those kind of things, maybe we start looking in this area. So herbs and vitamins that I would suggest would be vitamin D, vitamin B, lots of the vitamin Bs. Vitamin C is a pretty good one. This thing called psyllium, hopefully you understand what that is. Psyllium husk is very common. It's not necessarily an herb, but it's a natural way. It's a natural bowel mover. Okay. So it's one way to take and actually move the bowel. Psyllium kind of creates this like gelatin, like bullet essentially. And then as it passes through, it's kind of getting you regular pretty quick. Okay. So psyllium can be very, very helpful. Slippery elm is a really good one. If you have, this is going to sound gross, but we're going to go through it. So let's say your body's just not producing enough, what they call mucus, right? So mucus, or allow these bowel movements to slide through essentially. You see it with kids sometimes because kids will struggle hard, or they just doesn't even make sense. You'll have a little baby or kid or something, and then you look in the toilet, you're going to flush it for them, and the poop is bigger than the kid. It doesn't even make sense. So sometimes one of the nice things is like with the slippery elm, be careful, or aloe vera is a really good one. Aloe vera for a child is really, really good. But what it's doing is like aiding and making sure it's easy for everything to pass through. And then we'll also have those again for the rectum and the anal sphincters, right? So you're going to have vitamins A, C, D, and E. Aloe vera, which makes sense. It's the slippery elm because we want to make it nice and like mucusy, basically, back down there. But here's an interesting one. If we're having issues in hemorrhoids, fissures, those kind of things. Witch hazel is a fantastic astringent and anti-inflammatory. It reduces swelling, itching, and pain in hemorrhoids and anal fissures. So that could be really important. And it soothes rectal tissue as well. So, and here's the other ones: aloe vera, calendula. Jeez, that one I even had in my last herbal conference. We were like, I cannot remember how to say that. Calendula, and then horse chestnut. These are ASIN. They strengthen the vein walls. Okay, so you have a lot of vein type situations around that area, and it can reduce the swelling and alleviates hemorrhoid symptoms by improving blood flow in the rectal area. Okay. Man, I hope that wasn't too much, guys. I hope that wasn't like insanely too much information. Please, if you want to. Oh, yeah, let me do that too. So I have a little email list. So you all remember that I come on every Sunday. I can't remember what we've done every Sunday this year. But if you're interested in doing or, getting on every Sunday, we do about an hour at a time. Get on this Substack. It's called Substack. It's like an email list where I can send you out when we go live and videos and all those kind of things. But I really enjoyed tonight. Remember the Rumble. I'll repost that because I have a feeling this one you might want to re-listen to hear it. I tried to jam a little too much into there. And so that Rumble channel is really good. And then our last one is, of course, the podcast. But my job is, I think we'll see where gut health leads us. This is kind of how I break it down, right? So you have this great diet, you start the process, you start feeling better, you start adding those pre and probiotics. And then you wonder why, after a month or two, you say, oh man, I feel great. You go off of it, and then you have to go back, right? And so a lot of times, this is where I believe one of the reasons I got into being an herbalist is this process. Most of it is because of the gut microbiome that I think we're I wouldn't say mismanaging. I hate this word. It's just lack of understanding. And one of the things is we don't take care of the entire gut microbiome and understand that it's a process. It's going to take a while. How long, some of these causations were when you were born. So how the heck are we going to fix it like in a week and a half? And that, unfortunately, is where the big medicines have a lot of advantage, because they are going to give you temporary relief very, very quickly. But the problem is we need to understand what these are so that these processes get normalized again, and that innate intelligence of your body take care of business. So with that said, I hope I did not buzzsaw you. Remember I'm sorry, for our last 1% tribe, what are you going to do this week? Study how your body is functioning. Study where your stomach problem is. Is it in digesting the food? Is it in the acid reflux part? Is it going or being regular? All of these things can help you lead down a path where, if we don't have to wait till medicine or something happens, maybe we can try one of these processes of herbals and it really works out for you. So with that said, I apologize. Thank you guys for hanging out with me on Sunday night. Hopefully you enjoyed your day as well. We'll see you Wednesday night, possibly, or if you guys are around, 6:30 or between 6:30 and 8:30, I'll be running it. So just depends on the kids' stuff. So with that, you guys have a great night.